Hi friends, I'm Jeff VG. It was a dark and rainy day. In this video, I'm going to do a review of Atom by Baby Audio. It's a physical modeling synth, and I've had it for probably 4 months, but it took me a while to get used to. It doesn't look like a lot of the other synths that I've used in the past. The sounds are great, and it's kind of exciting. And the way I've organized things is, I'm going to do a brief review of what physical modeling is all about and why it's a current trend. Then I'm going to show you the basics on how this synth works. We'll go through a lot of the presets so you get an idea of what it sounds like. And at the end, we'll discuss what kind of music can you use these sounds in. How do I incorporate this into my songwriting? It's good to level set what we know about physical modeling, and I position Atom by Baby Audio as being right in the middle. There are less expensive physical modeling synths that you can get. One of them I'm going to highlight here is called Tele by Force. It's free, or there's a free trial. And another is a very expensive one called Swam by Audio Modeling. You know the old Goldilocks scenario. I think of Atom as being just right, kind of in the middle. But it's important to understand how these all work. In the case of Atom, it uses a simulation of interconnected masses of springs, and those springs are activated with a bowing, by using a bow, like a bow on a physical instrument. That's the primary way you activate the sound, and then you can adjust the sound with all the physical modeling parameters. The Tele application is a little bit different. It uses something called modal synthesis, and there's other modes other than bowing. There's plucking and hitting, something with a stick, like you might hit a piece of glass or hit a piece of metal. And they use something they call the multi-bypass filters. An equivalent to the emulation of the springs. It's a little bit different. Then there's Swam, which is kind of the king of the heap by Audio Modeling. It's expensive, and they have their own definitions of how they do that physical modeling. What I like is they have physical modeling and behavioral modeling. And I think the behavioral element is what makes these things sound so realistic. How does a violin player actually strike and play a violin? They have something called multi-vector phase synchronous sample morphing. And although I don't understand all the technical details about it, their view is that once you activate a sound, it doesn't stay the same, but it changes over time. So Swam, very complex and expensive. Tele, inexpensive, a good place to learn. Atom by Baby Audio is kind of right in the middle. I don't think I can do a more efficient overview of the features than they do on their own website. So let me just walk through that, and keep in mind that the sounds are being generated by a simulation of springs activated by a bow. Up in the top left, you've got music randomization, which is a really neat feature because although you can create sounds on your own, if you use their randomization, you're getting musicality added into the rules of operating physical modeling. You've got access to their presets. You get 250 high-quality presets to start. Off to the right, there are settings. This is where you can control all of your MIDI and everything else. Now, of particular interest to me was the MPE capabilities. Unfortunately, my MIDI controller is not NPE compatible, so I couldn't really get to the stage where I'm using those expressive features of pressing down the pressure on a key in order to get different sounds. Then there are these 6 controls around the outside of the visual. First one is chaos. As it says here, tuning up the chaos control increases the effects of pitch glides and detuning. Then there's the order, which relates to the number of springs that are vibrating. The effect changing the order has is really dampening. So you could almost replace this title with, instead of order, dampening. Force, as you might expect, is how much force is being applied when you bow those simulated springs. Greater force is going to make it louder. Less force is going to make it more subtle. The overtones, some of them occur naturally, but you can increase the number of overtones of the mass spring network by turning this up. So if you're playing a violin or a stringed instrument and you want to hear more of the overtones, this is how you control it. Drive is the harmonic clipping of the wave shaping. So if you want something a bit dirtier, it's going to drive just like a distortion would do. Then there's a filter, which is a resonant low-pass filter. Off to the left, they have music automation. You can choose from distinct automation types for polyphonic aftertouch, the rate, the range, the behavior. Down at the bottom, it's a little bit more traditional. You've got root and profile. Root determines the octave range. So if you're playing a bass part, you'd probably lower the octave. And you can have 4 profiles ready to go. You can click on any of those 4 buttons and you can customize those profiles. Attack and release, you can control manually. just like ADSR. Modulation, we talked about this a little bit, but if you're going to add movement and vibrato, this is where you can control the degree to which modulation applies to this patch. And then you've got reverb and output level. As you listen through the presets, keep in mind that Atoms is going to be particularly strong with ambient and pads. But don't cut it short. There's keyboard sounds in there, there's pulses, there's drones, there's lots of stringed instruments that take advantage of the MPE capabilities. When I show you the screen that has the 6 controls around the outside, you're going to see them move either with modulation or movement that's been programmed into those presets. So, what kind of songwriting can take the best advantage of atoms? Well, you could say any genre will work. The most obvious, of course, is ambient, or music that takes advantage of those paths. But you could just as easily use this in a creative way if you're a singer-songwriter. Suppose you've written a song using an acoustic guitar, and you're going to go down the road of using roots, natural instruments like a piano, drums, and bass. And you can do that, for sure. That might be your inclination. But by using something a little bit creative in that Atoms synth, you're going to make it sound unique. Maybe instead of a regular acoustic piano, you use one of the keys, piano-type sounds, soft piano that's built into Atoms. Maybe instead of a traditional bass, you use a synth bass that sounds quite acoustic, but has enough of a difference to it that the listener says, what's unique about the song from that singer-songwriter? And if you write pop or indie music, you're going to find some sounds in the Atoms synth that make your sound, once again, unique, differentiate it from the rest of the marketplace that's using traditional synths. If you look closely at the way Baby Audio is positioning, they'll tell you that it's great for EDM and hip-hop. And that's true. There's enough sounds in there that are modern and slightly abrasive and unique that are going to make your EDM songs stand out. You might not use it for all of the sounds, but you're going to use it to augment your sound. So I tend to look at Atoms as adding the icing on the cake. Even though the fundamentals of the cake might be based on traditional drums, maybe some traditional keyboard parts, or some classic analog synths, I'm not looking to Atoms to replace those analog synths as much to augment the overall soundscape that you hear in the song. Hey, if you found this review of Atoms useful, click on the like button. Consider leaving a comment. I always appreciate good feedback. And if you're so inclined, click on the subscribe button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and you'll be notified every time I come up with a new video. Thanks for watching.